faith, family, and everything else that matters to you from a godly point of view. Welcome to the Clear Branch Methodist Podcast.
Welcome into the Clear Branch Methodist Podcast. My name is Mark Harvard. I'm the pastor of communications and online campus from Clear Branch Methodist Church in Trussville, Alabama. And in case you don't know, we are in the middle of Lent currently, which means at the end of Lent, we have Easter. Now, obviously Easter Sunday, big deal. But here at Clear Branch, we've got some big things happening with our children's ministry. And here with us this week, we've got Melanie Schuler. Now, Melanie, last time you were in, we talked about Christmas and how to keep Christmas Christ-centered. You know, I mean, there's so much emphasis on Santa and on the consumerism and the presents and all that. We kind of run into the same sort of conundrum with Easter, right?
Well, we can, yes. You would think it is inherently about Jesus,
yeah.
And yet that can be forgotten by a lot of people. So one of the things that I like to talk to the kids about is we often kick off the season of Lent in our backyard area with our kids right around Ash Wednesday, and we talk about what Lent is. And of course, not Lent like in your belly button, but the season of Lent, like where the name came from and what all of the things mean. And while a lot of the things that happen and we talk about during Lent, a lot of that is kind of above our kids' heads. There are things that they can understand, and so I try to talk to them about these things at a level that they can understand. So one of the things, a lot of times the kids will say, well, are we supposed to give up something for Lent? And that's a very valid question. We often hear people say that they give up something during Lent. And when I talk to them about Lent and what it means, we don't just talk about the giving up of something, but sometimes that's giving up something, but also it could be taking it on. Uh-huh. And I try to remind them, first of all, if you're giving up something, it should be something that is truly a sacrifice, which is kind of hard because we have so many things in our lives that we don't have to have. And especially for kids, that can be a hard concept because they think they have to have Mario Kart. That's not really what we mean.
Don't tell my kid that he doesn't have to have Mario Kart.
I was specifically thinking about Jack and also my child when he was around Jack's age.
Sure, yeah.
That was definitely something that Isaac thought he
have to have my tablet.
Yes. But also that if you're giving up that thing to not just replace it with something else, that's an easy thing to do. I would always give up chocolate for Lent, and then I'd find myself eating honey roasted peanuts. Well, that's not really what we're trying to do here. The point is to fill that with time of prayer or time with God. And so I think for kids, sometimes that's easier to take something on. And so we talk about what could that be? Is that every day you try to find something that you can do to help your parents? Or is it that you do try to take on for our kids that are old enough to read on their own, that they take on some reading and prayer time on their own that's suitable for them? As a parent, if you're trying to help them take on something during Lent, a great way to do that is to do it with them. And of course, I love books. I've always loved books. And when I first did this with my kids, they were probably second and third grade, maybe something around that.
Sure.
And someone had given them the devotion book, Jesus is Calling. Of course, people have heard of that. Sarah Young, I believe, is the author.
Not Jesus possessive, but
Jesus Calling, like he's talking to you.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Look, I'm checking that it's called Jesus Calling. I'm checking my notes
to make
sure. Oh, now I'm sweating. I was afraid I called it the wrong thing. But this is a devotion book that's daily. It's dated from January 1st through December 31st. Someone had given it to my kids, and it had actually, I'm ashamed to say this, had sat unread for a long time. And that year, I really felt like I wanted to do something in Lent with the kids, with us together.
Sure.
And so I picked that up, and the first, I think on Ash Wednesday is the first night we did it, is we picked that day, and then for the entire time of Lent, we did that devotion together at night. this devotion book, if you're not familiar with it, there's an adult version. I'm speaking to the Jesus Calling for Kids devotion book. It's written as if Jesus is talking to you, which is really cool. And sometimes I use it also with our kids in the backyard. I always ask them to close their eyes when I'm reading it to them because I don't want them to see my face as I'm reading it because it's written like Jesus is speaking to them. And so I just want them to see whatever they imagine when they imagine Jesus talking to them. If you've got kids that are readers and that are learning how to read, this is a great one to use because it gives you a Bible verse at the top of each devotion. The devotions are fairly short and they're written in a way that kids can understand them and can discuss. And then there's also at least one, sometimes two, scripture at the bottom that they can look up. So like my kids loved being able to look up a Bible verse and read that together at the end. So that's a really easy way if you're looking for something to engage with your kids on that, something that you can all take on together as a family.
And it's something you can do at the end of the day as part of a bedtime routine or first thing in the morning with your breakfast or something like that. It's small enough to where it's easy to slip into the day's routines, but at the same time, there's enough meat to it where it's significant, where it, you can actually like latch onto it. You don't forget it as soon as it's done.
Yeah. I thought it was great. And I've used this book and I know I've repeated some of these at different times, but I've never met a kid that didn't quiet down and listen when we were doing this together.
Nice.
And I've met a lot of kids. And I've met a lot of rambunctious kids, including my own.
Yeah.
So, I think it's a really, really neat, well-written book. And you could do it with anything. But if you're looking for a devotion book that you can use at any time of the year, really, because it's not just for Lent, this is just a good time to take it on. That's one I would really recommend.
Now, yeah, and I like what you said about it's sometimes for children, it's easier to take on something than it is to give up something. Because you're right. I mean, that priority list is going to be a lot different in a kid than it is adult. And I mean, it means different things to different people. As part of our Ash Wednesday services here, I got to do a little talk about giving up things. And I talked about how in some of the groups, not all of them, but some of the groups I talked about how when my kid, who is 7, says he's going to give up Brussels sprouts, that is meaningless.
Right.
But when I say I'm giving up Brussels sprouts, that's a big deal because I love Brussels sprouts, especially when we put cranberries in there. Oh, bacon, cranberries.
I want to eat Brussels sprouts at your house. That sounds delicious.
So good. I'll give you a recipe. Anyway,
Okay.
I do them in the air fryer. They're great. Air fryer is such a game changer.
It is.
But anyway, but yeah, the different sacrifices are different for different people.
And two, I remind the kids, when you're taking something on, that's also the sacrifice of time.
Yeah.
And two, I honestly, for me, like I said, I used to always give up chocolate, even after I did much better about it and didn't replace it, and really did. Like when I would have that craving, I would try to stop and find a private moment and just have a moment and fill that with prayer, but the sacrifice, I may not have a lot of money, but and I don't have a lot of time either. Some people say, well, I don't have any money, but I've got time, or I've got time and no money. I don't really have a whole lot of either one. But time is something that definitely using that time in that way is the best use of our time. But sometimes we forget that should be our highest priority. So I think it's a really good, especially if you're trying to do something like this with your kids and teach them that sacrifice of time and also the taking on of something.
Yeah.
It's also, as you do it, a great way to get your own spiritual disciplines kind of back on track or in order. Or if you've been struggling to get there, I mean, I've certainly been there plenty of times in my life. That's a really good way to do both of those things at one time. So.
And I've known people who it sounds weird. I've known people that it was nothing for them to write a check, but it meant everything if they spent time to do something.
Yeah.
They had no time at all, but that time was all spent working, and so they had plenty of money.
Yeah.
And it was nothing for them to throw money at a problem.
And what a better way to wind down at night than with your kid?
Oh, sure.
Quietly, spending that time together. I think it's really great. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, especially when they're going to sleep, and that last thing is not a game on their tablet
Mm-hmm.
or a Switch something or some TV show that's going to rot their brain or whatever. But
Right.
it's something, it's scriptural. It's something. They go to sleep thinking about Jesus,
Yeah,
and that's big stuff.
which is really cool.
Yeah.
So along those same lines, something else and I'm sure, as with most of the books that my kids have, storybooks that my kids have, probably my mother bought it for them.
Uh-huh.
Although I can't right now put my hands on my physical copy of this book to check that for you. But if you have even younger kids, maybe that aren't readers yet, or if you've got older ones that still enjoy storybooks, sometimes it's hard to make the tie-in. I was not a kid that questioned things, so it never occurred to me to ask, why do we hunt Easter eggs to celebrate the fact that Jesus was resurrected? Like that question never occurred to me to ask, but a lot of kids ask that question.
Well, because they seem so like a disjointed
They really,
thing. There's no overlap.
Bunnies and Jesus. Like where
Sure.
are we? So there's a really great book that again, was gifted to my kids years ago. And my copy's pretty dog-eared because we've had it. My kids are 18 and 19 now. We've read it many, many times, and I've read it to kids here. But it's called The Legend of the Easter Egg. And you can actually, for any of my online friends who like to check out books through Libby, I discovered today when I couldn't find my copy that you can check that out on Libby, and it'll download right to your iPad so that you can look at and see all the pictures and everything. It's kind of an old-timey book. The story takes place probably in the early 1900s. And I'm not going to tell you the whole bit of the story, but throughout the course of the story, this little boy learns from both his older sister and from a family that he has to go stay with, more about the true, not just about the true meaning of Easter, but how that relates to some of the things that we do on Easter. And so he learns from this woman, of the couple that he's staying with, why we hunt eggs, why there are empty Easter eggs, and how all of that relates. And the point that we do that is, as we're hunting for these eggs, that we're how that ties back to the celebration of what the sacrifice that Jesus made for us, and how then he overcame the grave. So it's a very sweet, beautifully illustrated, wonderful little storybook. So if you, again, like I said, if you've got kids who still enjoy that, if you've got learning readers, it's going to be a little hard for them to read for themselves. It's a little long for them to try to sound it out and read it to you.
Sure.
But if they enjoy reading too, or if they're a little bit older, they might enjoy reading that to younger siblings or with you as well. But again, that's called The Legend of the Easter Egg. It's by Lori Wahlberg, but you'll probably kind of recognize it if you see the cover. So,
is that the basis of what you use for the eggs at the Big Hunt?
yes. So,
Okay, tell for John Q listener who doesn't know, what is the Big Hunt?
So the Big Hunt is our Easter egg hunt. A lot of churches and a lot of secular organizations host Easter egg hunts around Easter time.
Because otherwise it'd be weird.
Yeah. To do it in November, right around Thanksgiving. So we host ours, or we have now this will be the seventh or eighth year. I don't know. That since I've been on staff, that we'll have hosted this particular version of the Easter egg hunt. And we do it out by the lake. I say that. We've actually only been able to do it out by the lake twice, thanks to hurricane force, gale winds and rain and COVID and more hurricanes. So, but we love it when we actually get to have it outside.
Yeah.
So we host this
But
Easter
if it
egg.
does rain,
We don't cancel parties.
Game is still on.
Yeah. We don't cancel parties around Clear Branch. We move that joker inside and we figure it out. And we all sweat and it's loud, but
Make it happen.
We still love Jesus and find Easter eggs.
Sure.
So in our Easter egg hunts, for our preschool kids, it's really just what preschool kids do. But for our kids that are 5K and above, we split those into two different egg hunts. And instead of them just having a free-for-all, we have a card that we provide for them, and it shows them that there are 6 colors of eggs. And their goal is to find one of each of these eggs. Now, Well, and then we encourage them, and they're kids, so I don't know how successful this always is, but we encourage them.
The opportunity is there.
Right. And we always have gold eggs in there, which, of course, you get an extra prize for. But after they find their 6 eggs, to then try and help other friends find them. But on their card that they take home, it has their guide for finding their eggs on it. It tells them essentially the story of Easter and why we celebrate it. So each color of egg has a special significance and a special part of the Easter story. Okay. And so we ask the kids, you don't have to take these home, but we would love for you to take them home. And then, maybe tonight or tomorrow in Easter or sometime over the next week or so, read back through this card and this Easter story as you look at these colors of eggs. And then also, all of our eggs are empty. We don't do stuffed eggs because these are resurrection eggs. So when we have these empty Easter eggs, that is to remind us of the tomb that was empty on Easter morning when Jesus had risen from the dead. So that's the other reason that we have those empty eggs. And of course, then they take their egg. We give them a ticket and they go to the candy shop, and don't worry, your kids are still going to get plenty of candy.
Way more than you'll ever need.
Yeah. I mean, they're not going to have huge bucketfuls, but you're probably going to be happier with that because it's a much easier amount to control. But
sure,
everybody gets candy. And we hope that everyone has fun. Our goal in this hunt is to provide a place that you can come and have some family time together, first of all, and that we're sharing part of the Easter story in a very casual and approachable way with people in our community that this may be the only church they get all year. We don't know. We have people from all different church families, people from all over the place who don't have a church family. So if we can at least provide this little bit and an invitation to join us at some point, then I feel like we've done what we wanted to do.
And this is one of the church's biggest community outreach
It's the second biggest all year.
Yeah. I mean, we have Trunk or Treat around the end of October, and then we've got the big hunt. Mm-hmm. And it's a very different vibes.
Yes.
One being at night, one being during the day. And there's such a wholesomeness around this, It's awesome.
We love it. And we're so blessed to have this land and to have this beautiful lake area that when we have been outside, it's gorgeous. And even if it's cold, it's so nice being out there. And even on a cloudy day, it's pretty out there by the lake. The trees are so pretty. The pavilion's beautiful. We have an Easter bunny, and who doesn't love an Easter bunny?
Sure.
I mean, he's so handsome. They're waiting to have his picture made with you and your kids.
Yeah.
So, we have our Easter egg hunts. We also have a scavenger hunt that all the kids can take part in.
Yeah.
We do cookie decorating, which is open to everybody, parents. Mom, I know you want a cookie. Like, what parent the weekend of Easter doesn't need a cookie? We all do. So,
Fair.
That's for everybody. And they're delicious, by the way. They're Otis Spunkmeyer sugar cookies that we bake in the Clear Branch kitchen like 2 days before the event and keep tightly wrapped and ready to go. So
there you go.
I promise they're good. I'm a cookie connoisseur. So, and then we have other games and things going on out there as well. Those are kind of the 3 highlights. And then, of course, like I said, pictures with the Easter bunny for everyone.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. That's the Saturday before Easter?
The day before Easter, March 30th, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. at Clear Branch Lake.
There you go.
Hopefully. No hurricanes. If it's not, again, like Mark said, if it rains, if it's awful weather and you're still planning on coming, come on. We will just be inside.
This. Yeah.
We just move the party.
And we've gotten good at it.
Way too good at moving the Easter egg hunt inside. Way better than I'm comfortable with.
Like, we know where kids go. We know where the little babies go. We know. It's a system now.
It is a system. We've got it down pat.
Mel, thanks for coming in today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent. That's Mel Schuler. She is the director of Children and Family Ministries.
Yeah, something like that.
Minister of Children and Family Ministries.
I have goldfish.
She is keeper of goldfish. Keeper of goldfish and candy and Little Debbie cakes and
all that stuff.
Yarn and stickers and
glitter.
Yeah, keeper of the glitter. You have to have someone you trust on that role. Oh, so yeah, stick around. We got more stuff coming up in the next few weeks as we get closer and closer to Easter. So share the podcast. Go find us online, Clear Branch Methodist Church, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, now X, and TikTok. We're there. YouTube. Go find us all those places. Like and share and do whatever interaction is appropriate for that platform. We'll see you next time. Have a great week.